Hey guys, Michael here from michaelsherlock.com. Mobile World Congress 2012 is upon us in Barcelona. The first company I want to talk about that made their announcements early today was LG. And let's start off with the highlight in terms of what LG had to talk about, the Optimus 4X HD. This bad boy has a 1.5 gigahertz quad-core Tegra 3 processor. Now what's cool about NVIDIA's Tegra 3 system is it's actually a 4+1 core system. So when you're doing something that requires a lot of power, it whips out quad core. Now that does take some hit on battery life. At the same time, when the phone is just sitting idly or you're just doing very basic tasks, it actually switches over to a lower powered one core system. That way you get the best blend of battery life and performance by actively switching between those two different quad core system and one core system. This is a 4.7 inch IPS 1280 by 720 display, so this phone is just a mammoth. Has a gig of RAM and 16 gigabytes of storage, and when this phone ships, it'll be shipping with Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich. So you have a solid blend of the latest software, the latest hardware, and a huge, beautiful, gorgeous display. In terms of battery life, 2,150 milliamp hours, so you'll be able to get some good usage out of this phone. It is 8.9 millimeters thick and 0.35 pounds, so even though this phone is pretty big because of the display, in terms of weight and thickness in your hand, it's not really that big of a deal. This phone will be launching in Q2 of 2012 in Europe. We don't really know about worldwide, United States, all that launch, but Q2 for Europe. Really, the Optimus 4X HD is a powerhouse. It's got a gigantic display, 4.7 inches, not quite as big as the Note, but it's still pretty big with a 720p pixel resolution, and really the highlight is that quad-core system, which is very new and very, very powerful. Almost dropped my remote there. So the second phone that they talked about was the Optimus 3D Max. This is a 3D display, 4.3 inch LCD at WVGA resolution, which is 800 by 480 pixels. It also captures HD with 5 megapixel rear cameras that together make 3D images. Honestly, the display and the capture isn't that great. It's definitely better than the Optimus 3D from last year, but the 3D Max kind of is a letdown. It's not really anything too special unless you're really, really into having 3D with you. In terms of some of the other specs, 1.2 gigahertz processor. Again, not that Tegra 3 brand new stuff. This is sort of a older technology in there. NFC, and it'll ship with Android 2.3 Gingerbread, along with LG's custom skins. In terms of battery life, 1,530 milliamp hours with launch next month, so March 2012. Again, if you're really, really into 3D, this seems like a fairly interesting phone to check out, but if 3D really isn't your biggest feature, in terms of speed, in terms of battery life, in terms of software, this kind of lags behind. The next thing I want to talk about is the Optimus Vu. This is a pretty big phone, bigger than the previous ones we've talked about. This is 5 inches, 1024 by 768 pixels on an IPS display, 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, not again Tegra 3 like the 4X. This will have an 8 megapixel camera and a pretty good amount of storage with 32 gigabytes of built-in storage. When it ships, again, not Ice Cream Sandwich, Android 2.3 Gingerbread. It's 5.49 inches by 3.55 inches by only 0.33 inches thick. So again, this is a pretty big phone simply because of the huge display that's on here, but in terms of thickness, it's not that bad at all. The battery is 2,080 milliamp hours, so that's pretty big. This will also launch March 2012 in South Korea. We don't know in terms of a more worldwide launch, Europe, the other Western countries like the United States. We're not sure about that. But next month we'll see this phone in South Korea. And the last thing I want to talk about, we don't really know a lot about these phones, but these are the L-style phones. So you have the L7, which has a 4.3 inch display, the L5, which has a 4 inch display, and the L3, which has a 3.2 inch display. We really don't know a lot about these phones. We do know that the L3 will be shipping next month with Android 2.3 in Europe. The L5 and L7s will ship the first half of 2012, and when those ship, those will ship with Ice Cream Sandwich. So that's basically a recap of LG's announcements. Obviously the Optimus Vu, huge phone, 5 inches, 1.5 gigahertz dual core, but clearly the prize of the show has to be the 4x HD with its Tegra 3 system. That phone is definitely a powerhouse, and I'd love to see, you know, how well that performs in real world situations. And they've ran some benchmarking tests on it. By far the fastest smartphone that's ever been tested in terms of phones that are actually available for consumers in the near future. So it'll be interesting to see how this phone actually works in the real world. But then there's a lot more phones to come at Mobile World Congress 2012. This is just LG. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a nice day.